I love this diagram, and without, do we have the one without?
Yep.
Without discourse, there isn't an efficient connection between language development and literacy. There are many children who can answer isolated questions with an okay sentence, but they can't formulate it. So that's one of the big pieces for today, the formulation of narrative. Okay. This is the story grammar marker, and I'm holding it up here in a little section. These are icons to represent the big picture of a story. The character or characters. The setting is a star because sailors at night, if they're lost, they look to the stars to see where and when. The initiating event, which was my operation on Monday. The initiating event is the kickoff. It's something that was not expected necessarily in the setting. The feeling about the kickoff. The thought bubble, which is the mental state that the character has in response to a feeling, or the feeling is in response to a thought. The plan, which is a hand, represents what the character wants to do, the goal. The beads represent the steps of what the character is going to do first, and they come down towards something called a consequence, a direct consequence. The direct consequence of the actions that leads from the plan to the outcome. And then there are little hearts on the end that are a reflection opportunity to reflect on what happened. Did it turn out as it should have according to you? So this is used for multiple perspectives in stories and in life, because of course, there's never just one opinion. Okay. So the icons are at the top of this water analogy here. They're very colorful, they're fun. You can do so much with them to build the episode is what we're calling this. So this whole thing, composed of all these icons along the top, they compose an episode, which is a basic unit of plot, but it's a basic unit of life as well. And below that, one of the big things, if I'm doing a workshop on story grammar marker, is to take these 7 stages, which appear in the professional literature, and to talk about the building of a story and the building of children's ability to tell a story and understand a story through these developmental stages. If you as the professional realize where your student is functioning, it's so much easier to bring them from that stage to the next and to focus on where they should be academically and socially. The lowest level or the deepest level, the one we're going to talk about, Anna, today, is the critical thinking triangle. That is the kickoff, the feeling, the plan, and the mental states, and how they can all be combined through language to express that vital part, which is the motivation of a character to do anything. Why is the character doing what he's doing? It's because there's a feeling or a thought or both, and they've made a plan. So these are the deep levels of where we could go with narrative, and that's what struck me about Anna's work and about the story grammar marker, how there was such a meshing of ideas and there were ways to do it. Okay.
And then just
These are the 7 stages, and today we're going to be focused on stage 7, interactive episode, which is the video that we're going to see. But a lot of our students are at a stage 2. where they would look at this and they would see the characters, the setting, and they would see the actions almost as isolated events. They would see them, but they wouldn't be going deeper as we would want them to do in discussion or discourse. Okay, I always love this quote from a 1985 publication edited by Charlene Simon, and it's by Carol Westby, about all the mental states, as Anna pointed out this morning, the mental states involved in a narrative. We dream, remember, anticipate, hope, despair, love, hate, believe, doubt, plan, construct, gossip, and learn in narrative. So it's kind of like a bottom line. And I'd like you to be thinking about these components that I've kind of done quickly today as we begin our discussion. Narrative development is a part of the discourse level of language, and I've always had a part in the diagram of the 7 stages about the landscape of action and the landscape of consciousness. Those are terms by Jerome Bruner, talking about how many children and adults are in a landscape of action many times. They see the actions and they aren't processing the underneath emotion and thought. And so it's referred to as narrative thinking. And I think this is where you come in, Anna.
I'm going to pop in. So I don't know, Sheila, if you're going to turn over so I can move the slide. Maybe I'll just ask you to move the slides.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, it's interesting when we think about social learning, I think of kind of this trifecta of brilliant people, one of whom is Bandura, then Vygotsky, who I met very early on. I had the good fortune, not met him, but I read about him very early on, and Feuerstein, who was, I think, a brilliant kind of social cognitive psychologist. Because when we think about what is social behavior, and Bandura, who actually first was known for his social learning theory, then in the late 80s amended it and called it social cognitive therapy, because he was really understanding the role of cognition in social learning. And he really believed in kind of that transactional system of learning, that it isn't unidirectional, but that it's between individuals and environment and what's happening, and observation and imitation and modeling that really builds that understanding of what's happening in our social lives. And in a few slides, we'll look at, well, what are the problems if we're working with students on the autism spectrum? Is this happening for them in the same way? It's always interesting to me to think of what Vygotsky said, in that we can't have intra-language unless we have inter-language. And I'm very curious when I work with my students, especially my older students, of thinking about, well, what's happening inside their heads? What does their inner language, that narrative thinking, look like? And as we got ready for this, Maryellen and I saw kind of a very interesting, had some interesting discussions about this. And last, Feuerstein had the idea of what he called mediated learning experiences, which are what we do every day in our work with students, because we have to help students identify to what information is important, discover its meaning, then be able to move that understanding to other situations and become better organizers for themselves. And so I think this is kind of a framework that we can use as we go through the rest of the presentation and start watching this amazing video.
And of course, when we're talking about, I just wanted to interject here a little bit. When we're talking about using the story grammar marker, we're talking about that modeling that Vygotsky talks about in moving from the zones of proximal development.
Yes. So on this slide, on the left-hand side, it's quite a miracle that for the majority of individuals, this all comes together. That They're exposed. There's a little bit of social learning when parents say, oh, remember to say thank you, but not that much. And that social observation and minimal social learning results in social performance that certainly will fall on a continuum. But the majority of us will learn how to do this. Our social learning will progress and grow. However, on the other side, on the right side, these cogs have separated. And I think our job when we're working in social cognition and social learning is to bridge from the social exposure to the social learning, to really focus on the social learning with things like the story grammar marker and the critical thinking triangle, as we're then bridging again to help students improve their ultimate social performance.
I agree.
So there is a lot of research actually that backs up the use of animated videos, and it's always good. I always like to talk about it because, you know, for some administrations and parents, it's a new idea, and we always want to make sure that there's a framework within which we're learning. And so this slide and the next summarize some of this research. Initially, there was a lot of work with light displays, looking at either random light displays or light displays that looked like a figure walking. And that was early research by Clinton Jones. That was back in 2009, which is starting to sound like a while ago. What was being found was that, and then in subsequent studies, that being able to understand intention behind social movement is a hallmark challenge to students on the autism spectrum and perhaps other disabilities as well. This quote from Kaiser and Pelfrey, disruptions in the visual perception of biological motion are emerging as a hallmark of ASD. Mm-hmm. And so then on the next slide, where you'll see a little bit more research, there's even more discussion. Baron Cohn has used video clips to work on emotions in his Reading the Minds in film, where he has clips and works on emotional recognition skills. And then in 2017, the microanalysis of film may offer a promising means for school mental health providers to support adolescents in improving their perspective taking. And so this is also saying that we can break down animated movement or real person movement. It doesn't, you know, we certainly can work with both to help students in what I feel is the most important, is to work on identifying feelings, perspective taking, and understanding that discourse that is happening between the characters. Mm-hmm. I think the hallmark of using animated videos is that we have pause buttons now, when we didn't used to have pause buttons 20 years ago. That allows us to get a clean, crisp freeze frame, that because many of our students will need several goes through a scene, even a few seconds of a scene, to be able to understand it. And if you experiment with this, you'll even hear students say, I need to see it again. Can I see it again? Mm-hmm. And the beauty of these videos is, yes, they can. They can see it again.
They can see it and they can practice it.
Exactly.
And yes, it's almost like real life.
Mm-hmm. Almost. And it's very engaging. You know, a lot of our students, especially as they get into middle school, have had a lot of therapy. And they've had a lot of material, and some have had a lot of worksheets. And I have yet to find a student who doesn't sit up and take notice when I say, oh, you know what, let's watch a video. And they often feel that they're kind of pulling one over on me, whereas I feel, this is different perspectives, obviously, I feel that I'm pulling one over on them because they're doing more work than they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
Exactly, right.
And then do you want
to
just...
social communication, I just like this definition from Hua Froelich's book on social communication development and disorders, about how it's a broad spectrum of language and interactive behaviors. That's where we're coming today. And it's defined as the ability to use language interpersonally in interpersonally appropriate ways to influence people and interpret events. And that's the main thing. If we can help children interpret events It's a major, major accomplishment. So what about this? One of the group of researchers, Brinton and Fujiki, I've often read their things throughout the years, and they just cite these bullets in social communication, how it enables interpersonal interaction by helping kids read emotion cues and facial expressions. I wanted to mention that when I analyze a story, it's not just the text, it's always the pictures, because in so many ways they interact with each other, and a wonderful illustrator builds on the text, kind of what's missing. We look at the body language. How many of our children have trouble with body language? Or adults have trouble with body language? Understanding and anticipating the emotions elicited. Anticipate emotions because of the kickoffs. Interpreting contributions of others and what emotions do they bring. It's especially important now. Anticipate the effect of one's own words and actions on the emotions of others. And to think that the actions of one person may be a kickoff for somebody else. Our students don't realize that. It helps them appreciate the fact that others' emotions may differ from one's own. And that's why perspective taking is so important. So I love that slide.
And now for the main event.
Anna.
So excited. So we are going to use this wonderful video by Alyce Tzue called Soar, which I came across several years ago. And I just wanted to really extend my appreciation to Alyce for allowing us to use her wonderful animation. There are incredible animators out there who tell beautiful stories. And this is certainly one of them. I have used this video in so many different ways. And some of those we'll touch on today, but not all of them. And I'm sure as you're watching it, maybe think about who do you have in your caseload, in your classroom, what student do you know? What could you use this video to work on with them? How could you use it? Because it is such an amazingly amazing video. So now we come to the tricky part, where Sheila is going to hand over control to me, and I have to play. Oh, hold on. Can you see this screen, Sheila? No, I have to share screen.
Yeah.
Okay. This actually might work the first time through.
Oh, that would be.
Oh, that would be
love that.
great.
So just for time reasons, I didn't let all of the credits play. But that is just, I've seen that video hundreds of times and it still gives me goosebumps and fills my heart. It is such a lovely, lovely story. Maryellen, I think you're still muted. I think you ladies should unmute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
I was just going to say it's beautiful from both perspectives. Yes.
And this is an example of what types of stories are out there as animated videos. You know, oftentimes when we think about, you know, a place like YouTube, we think, oh my gosh, there's so much terrible stuff on there. And it's true, there is. I'm on YouTube all the time looking for new videos. But there's also magical stories that are told in 4 minutes or less with incredible emotional representation of feelings. Many of these animators come through Ringling in Sarasota, and then they go to Pixar, and they worked, you know, Paul Ekman, who's the person on micro expressions of emotion, worked with Pixar animators to really result in videos that are just lovely like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
let's see what we can do with it.
I was going to also say in language work with it, you could take it, it is a stage 7, which means it's interactive. They're interactive episodes, but you can take it at all those lower levels and work on whatever the child is able to do.
Absolutely, and you can work on anxiety and flexibility and so many other concepts that are so critical for social and academic success.
And I just want to say too, a lot of people are asking just about where.
Are you muted?
No, I'm talking through your microphone. That where how do people get the video and that kind of thing. But I also just wanted to say we're gonna Anna has a couple of books that have multiple vetted and done with activities, choices for you that we're going to show at the end. But Anna, you might want to talk a little bit about the sort of.
Yeah, because I see those questions coming in on my website, which is at the end of this presentation at socialtime.org. You can download for free if you go under Social Learning Labs, which is where I have some resources, especially the resources that are at no cost. You can download kind of my top pick list. So there's a top picks for working on narrative. There's a top picks for working on anxiety or sadness or anger, or kind of the top picks for various years. Because it does take time to find some of these, especially the really high quality stories. And there are so many great ones. We do not have to compromise and show something of kind of mediocre quality. So make sure that you're really showing the great stuff that's out there. If you do, and I know at the end, I do have that UQ Feelings book. If you purchase the book, or if you have purchased the book, please make sure that you have registered your purchase by sending me an email, because there are regular updates to that book. One of the dangers of using animated videos is sometimes they disappear. And so in the UQ book, I think there's one title that has vanished from the internet. We never thought that could happen. And so if you're a registered buyer of that book, you will get updates that say, here's new videos, here's new activities. So I just wanted to send that out there. So I think we've just been talking about this. How many different themes are in this cooperation? Absolutely. Friendship. What does friendship mean? And how do kickoffs influence friendships? You know, I talk with a lot of my students about those bumps in friendships, because some of our students think, well, if there's a bump in my friendship, I'm done. I'm out of here. And that discussion of, well, how big a bump was it? You know, how big a kickoff? What's your plan to remake or restore the friendship? And so all of these icons from Story Grammar Marker apply to life, just in the same way as they do to story making and storytelling.
And I think that's a great point, Anna, about the size of the kickoff. You can make a big shoe and a little shoe to show that there's probably a big heart or a little heart, different things like that, as just little lessons for children. So
and that consistency of using the same icons when we're working on narrative as we're using when we're talking about what happened on the playground. There's that consistency that's so helpful to students.
Mm-hmm. And when children are talking about what happened on the playground, it's usually an interrogation. But if they get a chance to just hold a marker and tell that story from their own perspective, things come together. So yes, the little story grammar marker is the children's way. So these are just connections among the troubles and the feelings. So often by 5th grade, children are reading short stories and they're asked to come up with the troubles that the characters have. And a lot of them can't find the trouble. And that's the kickoff. So they're way back from where they should be. And this kind of work would assist them so much. Okay, so we were mentioning that it's a stage 7, and I did analyze the story.
It's a beautiful analysis, Maryellen. It's just fabulous to see how you framed it. Was so interesting to me. So thank you.
Oh,
yes,
thanks.
And just so everyone knows, what we're going to show is just part of what is in your handout that's free to download. In addition to the slides, you'll also get, I think it's a 3 or 4 page analysis of the entire animation. So we'll quickly go through this, but just quickly only because we've got other things we want to get to, and this will be in the free download that you'll get. So.
And of course, when I was doing this analysis, I was bringing language words to the piece, which was of course wordless. And that's what our students would have to do too, to think of how to express those things. So, so we have a character interested in airplanes, their design. It's a hilly area. We could look around. There are hills, trajectory for flying. The kickoff, and of course her planned action for the day, her ho-hum day, was that She was going to fly this plane, and we had seen many blueprints in her wagon, her plans. So obviously it was a desire of hers, but the plane crashed, which was the kickoff. She, we infer by her body language, is sad and discouraged as she returns to the table. And if we infer her mental state, and I call it infer, but if we do that, we talk about certain words like, what does she realize? What does she remember? What does she know? She realizes that something went wrong. And she might say, I can't seem to get this to work. We can kind of see her almost thinking that. Her plan is to look at the blueprints again and try to alter something. So she stops, and below, this is what we call an embedded episode. It wouldn't have happened if the first kickoff hadn't happened.
That's where the embedded episode
Yeah.
comes in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So the embedded episode is that the miniature, I call it a satchel, hits her on the head, and at the same time, a plane whizzes by, and they're tiny. A tiny person, a boy named Lucas that I got from the credits, from a different planet somewhere in the galaxy. This is what we might think about. Where he's from, we don't really know, okay? But the satchel contains something special, and it has fallen out. We infer how he's feeling by the way he comes out, dedicated to looking for the satchel and getting it. We infer he's worried about it. He's wondering where it is, where he is. It's a different place. And his plan is to rescue the satchel and rejoin his comrades who are flying above. He climbs out in search of it, pulls it back toward the plane, and then sees Mara, whose name I found on her blueprint, and attempts to point a pencil toward her as a threat. She reacts by taking his picture. So there's a little bit of a contrast that we could talk about. He tries to get his plane down. This is his next attempt, but the propeller breaks apart. He sees his comrades fly away toward their destination without him. Now, each one of these actions or attempts that he's seeing can cause a feeling in him or deepen his feeling. Lucas points a pencil at Mara in anger again. The direct consequence is that he's stuck in this strange place. The resolution, which is his thought about or his feeling about what has happened, he sees all his comrades fly away and he's devastated. And that's kind of how it leaves us. And I was noticing, Anna, that there are rocks there. It's as if their whole situation is on the rocks.
Yes.
And nothing is nice about it.
So like I said, the rest of that analysis, including that, is going to be available to you. I'll give you a link at the end. You'll also get an email with it, and you can have that as a download to use as you wish. And now we're going to get into the cool part. I love this. Anna introduced this to us, and I think it's so cool.
So thank you, Sheila, and thanks, Maryellen. That analysis, I just love how it maps out, and it shows the complexity of what, at first glance, looks like a reasonably simple story. Mm-hmm. And jump cuts feather in really nicely right now, because one of the things that makes it difficult for our students to understand social is the idea of jump cuts. And so jump cuts comes from an idea in movies. The space of movies is fractured, discontinuous, and time does not flow in its usual manner because there's cuts. And so the filmmakers realized that audience members could fill in everything. You know, if somebody goes into a coffee shop and then we see them drinking coffee, the audience can fill in what happened in between. So jump cuts allowed filmmakers to cover more story because they could take out the parts that people could figure out. The challenge for our students is that our students are not in that audience that can figure out what's between the jump cuts. And the jump cuts are not limited to only movies. Jump cuts happen in real life. If I turn my back on this webinar, which of course I would never do, but if I turn my back and I come back and there's like the ending slide, it's like, wait a minute, I missed something. What did I miss? And so it's happening to our students all the time. There's just starting to work in a group and they go to get a pencil and they come back and the group has completely organized and they're standing there thinking, what are we doing here? What's happening? In PE, you know, the students are milling around, our student goes to get a drink of water and he comes back and class has started and our student may continue to mill around, not having figured out that jump cut means it's not milling around time anymore, it's now class time. And so they're still over here milling around. So they're everywhere. And we also see them in books, because now let's start moving toward videos because we're going to end up at Soar. Here's a very basic children's book, A Boy, a Dog, and a Frog by Mercer Mayer. And these are, you know, 2 pages that are side by side. There is a huge jump cut in the middle of these 2 pictures. What happened in between? There's a frog on a hill, and then there's a frog in a living room. Is it 2 frogs? Many students with whom I work think that there are 2 different frogs because, again, they're not filling in the jump cut.
Yes.
Yes?
And I was going to say about filling in the jump cuts. I talk about it all the time. I say you can use your narrative thought to fill in the jump cuts there. And the kids just don't know how to do it. Yes. Just right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not just in fiction books, because it's also in history. And I think this is a very interesting reminder to us because we often work with teachers. And so this, I'll read the kickoff. Everything changed December 7th, 1941. That morning, hundreds of Japanese planes attacked and destroyed a US naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. More than 2,000 Americans were killed. Congress quickly declared war on Japan. A few days later, the United States was at war with Germany as well. The challenge here, and these are just 2 paragraphs, there's not a big space between them in the textbook. What happened in between? How did we get from Pearl Harbor to war? And the critical jump cut involves a change in feelings. The Americans were not happy about Pearl Harbor. They were angry and worried and stressed and upset and furious. And that's why Congress declared war. So if our students only memorize the facts, they're missing the greater picture that wars happen because different groups of people have different feelings. And so critical to think about jump cuts everywhere. But now we're going to move into jump cuts in Soar because there are many jump cuts in Soar. And I think Sheila did the magic of clipping, right, Sheila?
Yes.
And has an example. So as we're watching this, think about where is the cut? How many cuts do you see? So the big jump cut there is between she has her idea, that mental state verb, we can recognize it, that she's like, oh, wait, I know. And then there's a jump cut because then all of a sudden the plane is already put together and the plans have been, you know, attached as sails. So that's a very big jump cut. But there's also jump cuts between the 2 characters. So right now, just right there, what is she looking at? If it's not in the same frame, it is a jump cut. And so our students could say, well, she's looking at a tree. Maybe she's looking at the plane. Is she looking at the boy? No, the boy's not there. She's looking at the plane. So there are jump cuts constantly in these that are between characters and how are they engaged together, which is so challenging for our students.
Yes, and I was going to say that in that jump cut between the blueprints and the actual construction and her pulling it, we have the actions to go from the plan all the way to the consequence of having the plane made. What were they? What do you think they did? What were the steps? And of course, children with executive function problems have trouble with that as well.
Absolutely. So I think what we're going to look at now, I haven't memorized the slides, are some examples. Yes. So, you know, this is part of a much bigger presentation I do about doing this kind of work with animated videos. So how can we help students start to figure this out? This is an example of working with students who really need that visual support. This is watching it, freezing it, and then these students are they're writing out the thought bubbles. And so here's two contrasting ones. And so this is pretty literal and concrete work. And we can go to the next slide, which is similar. Now these students, these guys really liked having the thought bubble and standing and holding it by the TV, and then I would take their picture. So they're really animated. We've got here on the right, oh, my propeller broke. That's okay. Or we can go to the next one because these are in the handout so people can look at these in more detail. Again, the use of pause and the sticky notes, life-saving. This is interesting. This was actually from a group that was working on resilience. And so on the left slide, we had gone through and talked about, what do you think she's thinking right now? Because we've done the feeling, but what do you think she's thinking? And I love these. It will never work. I wish I could. I'm just too dumb, which many of our students say when they see a picture like this. But then the contrast, they were resilient. And then what are they thinking? We've got this, we've figured it out, we can do it. So this is so helpful to our students. We can say, but remember the airplane. Maybe you can fix this just like Mara fixed the airplane. Those reminders to animated videos are very helpful to our students in taking on that role themselves.
And you know, I was going to mention, Anna, in general ed, there's a thrust on text complexity, and it's really a lot of times the jump cut.
Yes.
It is the text complexity part of the story grammar part. There's also complex sentences and things like that. And also the other thing is the growth mindset that is talked about in general ed. This ties right into what you were just talking about with resilience and using these things to talk about. Okay.
This is a great slide. These were some feelings in Soar, and this was a group that we called them thumbs up and thumbs down feelings. Often I call them comfortable and uncomfortable. And we've got this great little visual. I think, is this a bookmark, Sheila?
Yes, it's a bookmark.
It's because many of our students do not have this vocabulary, and we need to provide them with choices, and also to start those discussions of, well, what's the difference between shaken and petrified? Because all of these words are in literature and our students enjoy exploring them.
Yes. And these are the 6 universal feelings of happy, sad, mad, scared, surprised, and disgusted. And of course, there are social feelings that are like frustrated and things like that, or jealous, that are a group of things. So there's a lot of area to cover over the years.
And those are some cards as well, but we want to get to the next.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, I love asking students to sketch. They gathered the pieces and built the plane together. So I'm just asking them to sketch. Give me a sketch about how the characters were resilient. Because once students love the characters and understand the characters, they also understand that that's kind of a universal experience of failing at something. And when after they talk about it with the characters, that self-reflection comes much more easily to them.
And that's a vital part. The self-reflection lets you know where you're going to go next.
Yes.
You know, yeah.
I think we're just about ready to, Maryellen and I are putting ourselves out there. So again, contrasting, you know, the worries in Soar, well, we have similar worries. So really supporting students in thinking. Another student illustrating her struggle to learn the monkey bars.
Yes.
Friday bumps, talking about uncomfortable feelings. What happened? How did we feel about it? Talk about cooperation. There's so many choices. Oh, we've got a ways to go here. So So I'm just going to cover this relatively quickly, if that's okay, Maryellen, so we can get to our part.
Yes,
Mhm.
and for the hand, yes, and I'll just say for the actual slides, when people get them, they'll have the icons in them so that they'll know what you talked about if you can just do it quickly.
Great. So what I did is I had a group of 3 girls and I had them watch the video and then I asked them to give a narrative. It is true that every student heard the narrative before, so this wasn't an evaluation. I just wanted to get a sense. And so here we have 3 narratives. And, you know, a lot of them, like you say, Maryellen, they're action oriented.
Yes.
There's some complex language. So right here, his airplane's broken because he crashed. So there is some complex language. But if you look at this, you notice that there really isn't any consideration of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that limit this story? So what we did next in group, and this was an hour-long group, and we did all of this in an hour. They watched it, they gave me the narrative, and then because we were doing teletherapy, like we all are right now, and we had a shared screen, I just pulled up a whiteboard. You know, sometimes you don't have time to get fancy. And this was one of those times. And so I just pulled up a whiteboard and we started talking about what feelings did you notice? We went back and looked at it, talked about it some more. Why were those feelings there? What was going on? So we just did this for maybe 10, 12 minutes, not terribly long. And then I asked the girls to do a second narrative. And, you know, I think if you have when you have the handouts, you can look at this in more detail. Brady at the 3rd girl still struggles with her narrative because her narrative is not as advanced as the other 2 girls. But Ava, who I just saw and now is gone, you know, much more complex language, a huge dose of feelings is in there. And the story is more complete. It's more exciting. It's more engaging when she tells it now. Do you want to add anything, Maryellen?
I do. The second time, there was so much more in the area of conjunctions that were used for advanced sentences. And, you know, people will often say to me, you know, I noticed such a change in their sentences when they were using story grammar marker. And, you know, it's really because they're starting to put in those conjunctions that are on the areas of the critical thinking triangle. And so I noticed that complex language and the number of appropriately used feeling words, because so many times they use some word that's, you know, pops into their head, but isn't directly related to the kickoff. Mm-hmm. So that's fabulous. And all of these are. Mm-hmm. So I thought that that was fabulous. And the kickoff is the causal chain. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, it's like a hallmark to get to identify the kickoff. And many people will say, my students just don't get the kickoff. It surprises me. They will say to me, and that's because they're at the series of actions that we talked about at the beginning and only looking at the movement in actions.
Yes.
This is great.
All right, so we're moving into what I called conversation in real time. And this was a little component. I haven't talked about the conversation paths pack that I have. It's on my website. And it's a framework to work on conversation with students, a semi-structured framework that covers 8 building blocks of conversation. And part of this is conversation in real time, where, you know, many of the videos that I use don't have dialogue for a number of reasons. And one of them is we want students paying attention to the nonverbal, the body language, the contextual information. And so conversation in real time is basically an activity of doing a voiceover or a narration or a dubbing of the video that covers so many aspects that our students are working on: understanding of feelings, flexibility, because I don't know what Maryellen's going to say when we get to this. We have not rehearsed this at all. She doesn't even know what part we're going to do.
I don't. That's it.
It gives students the opportunity to practice kind of partnering with somebody in a very spontaneous way. So I think, shall we just dive into it? I know we're just at 1. The bell just tolled at the church next door. All right. So if you, Maryellen, which role, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the boy or do you want to be the girl?
I'll probably be the girl.
All right, you're going to be the girl. And so we're going at this cold, and some students could do it cold. Others would need to review the movie and do some breaking down. So we're going to
I might have to do that.
you've watched this many times. So I think we're going to go from here. All right, Mara, you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, and we're going to mute the video.
What's wrong? I think I've got an idea.
What are you doing? What?
Yes, I think I can help you.
Wow. Okay, let's try.
I've been practicing this myself.
All right.
And many times I've had a problem. But
It
look,
looks good.
on the pencils.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh,
I'll never get up there.
yes, you will. I
Okay.
know you will.
No.
Help you. Look,
I'm go.
all we have to do is this.
Oh,
Oh,
hurt my head. Oh no, there they go. What now?
oh my goodness. Let me think. Let me think. What would I do? What would I do? How can I help you?
I'll never see them again.
I'm so sorry for you, but I can help you, I know. I've done so much practice myself. Oh, if I could only have an idea. Everything, oh my goodness. Look at, the wind is blowing this. It's going to take him where he wants to go. All we
Okay.
have to do is attach it.
Okay, let's try.
Let's go, I'll pull you. I'll give you a good start.
Wow, I'm up. Oh, I'm going. I'm off.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Going.
Bye.
Bye. Maybe I'll see you again.
All right. I was just thinking our faces doing this. Must have been something to see, Maryellen.
That was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone's clapping. You guys are great.
Maybe we should go into the business.
Maybe you should go into voiceover acting.
Now, an interesting challenge is that all the time we overtalked, which happens in conversation.
Yes, yes, it does. And then you get a sense that you shouldn't be talking at the time.
And I think the reason we had so much talking over each other is because we weren't looking at each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I was trying to desperately keep up with my little boy.
And I was trying to think of what Mara might say. Okay.
And students really like doing that. And I videotape, I usually take like a QuickTime movie of just the video and the voices, because in teletherapy, their pictures are there. And of course, I don't want the pictures there. And they love listening to it. They love listening to it. You can have them switch roles. They can do it as a group. It doesn't really matter. It's just practicing conversation in real time.
And you know what I noticed? I noticed that I was very expressive, and I was using my hands, and I was,
People said you were,
it was really, you used your body language, you used your tone of voice, you used your sentences, you used your questioning.
I felt
intonation.
the emotion. I
Yes.
felt the emotion of that boy, which is true perspective taking.
Yes.
Having that empathic component of the standing in someone else's shoes, but feeling what they feel in those shoes. I was really upset. Okay,
Wow.
that's some dark chocolate now.
Well, now I'm glad it's over.
now you
Just
don't have to,
kidding.
well,
I did enjoy it.
she was saying yesterday or this morning, she was saying, I hope I'm okay doing this. I
I
don't
hope
know.
I can think.
I don't know which part. And I said, well, we're going to just try it. I mean, well, I'm just going to show you a few of these, and we're going to, because we are going to take questions, but we want to pull the winners, and of the raffle.
I have to say one thing. I'm sorry that it's at the end.
I know. I think
I'll
everyone's
have
sad
to
it's over.
continue.
We'll have to do another one. I think everyone is sad that we're coming to the end.
Next time we'll wear costumes.
Yes, next time you wear costumes. So we do have special bundles that are going to be, well, they're actually 20% off list price of if you were to buy them separately. And this is the link. You can screenshot it, or you can, you're going to get this in your handout anyway. So this is Anna's book, UQ Feelings, Using Online Videos for Social Learning. This is the one that we kind of chose to go along with this webinar because we were talking so much about feelings. And in this, she had, well, you could talk about it for a second, Anna, because I'm going to say what it is, but you might as well.
So in this book, there's, I think, 50 recommended YouTube videos. Or is it 20? No, there's 25 recommended videos, some of which have changed if you buy it, register your purchase. And then 50 activities, 25 activities that are character and video focused. And then 25 activities that start that self-reflection in our students, that give them activities to think about how has this happened to you.
Mhm.
And then, and this is an awesome book. So we are also pairing it for people that aren't using Story Grammar Marker yet, possibly. We're pairing it up with a critical thinking triangle mini poster and a student-sized Story Grammar Marker tool and the digital Story Grammar Marker icons. And that is on the website also. We also have an advanced set that is talking about, that basically has our critical thinking triangle in action set paired with Anna's UQ Feelings book, and using the two of them gives you the ability to really delve really deep, much deeper into the feelings, thoughts, kickoffs, plans, that kind of thing with those tools. And then finally, we've put together this deluxe set that also includes the digital icons, the Story Grammar Marker manipulative, and several of the posters, mini posters that kind of really give you, and also our brand new stamp set. And there, again, this one is $103 value. So these are great options. You can go to our website to see those. You can click on what's new, I think, and you'll see those. The digital icons, a few people asked me during the webinar about it, and they are available. Like you saw throughout this webinar, the icons are available. Okay, so the prizes. I gotta find my list of people so I can do I could have a little app here that I can do this with. So, okay, where's my list here? Okay. All right. So first, the first prize is going to be Movie Time Social Learning. And while I'm scrolling for the winner here on my app, do you want to just mention, Anna, that's your other book?
That was
if you want to mention, that one also has similar, as far as
yes,
movies, but this is a little bit different.
Movie Time was before, it predates YouTube. And so it presents lesson plans breaking down 7 movies, ranging from Knuffle Bunny all the way up through Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, scene by scene, what you can do. And the first chapters really focus in thinking about, as clinicians, how are we using silence? How are we using visual supports? How are we using language? Because all of those kind of hold how our students are going to learn. So there's the first chapter on silence really emphasizes we have to stop talking as much as we do. And it's hard to do. It's very hard to do that.
It's hard to
Well,
do.
okay, so the winner of that is Joan Kavarsky. Joan, are you still on here? Joan, Kavarsky. Joan Kavarsky. And yes, you can get that on our website. I mean, I'm sorry, you can get that from Anna directly, that second book. Oh, Joan is there. Yay, Joan, you're the winner of that one. So you're the grand prize winner. Second, Audrey Gwindra Parker, Audrey, and then it's GWINDRE dash Parker. Audrey Gwindre Parker. I don't know if you're there, Audrey, but I'm going to write your name down, and you get a set of our brand new rubber stamps. And the stamps come, oh, you're there. Great. Okay. Congratulations. You and, oh, I don't have the stamps sitting here next to me, but these are brand new, and they now come with the thought bubble, and they now come with, you don't have to, and they come with their own little stamp pad. So, okay. So congratulations, Audrey. And then our third, Roxana Velarde. Roxana Velarde. Oh, she's there. Yay. Okay. Great. Oh, well, congratulations to all the winners.
That's great.
We're so glad that you could all join us. I just want to put up on here too, Maryellen and Anna's contact information. Again, I'm going to be sending this to, I'm going to be sending this to you tomorrow via email, so you have links to everything. You'll get the certificate of attendance, you'll get the slides, you'll get the free downloadable handout. Did you want to say hi?
I just wanted to say hi to Holly Fidrich, who's the co-author of the first manual that I ever wrote with me, and she's on.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, Holly.
I didn't see you, but my mother just said you were, oh, there you are. Hi, Holly. So, and we are gonna answer a few questions. I just, let me see, I'm gonna go back, I'll keep this up here. And there are some questions.
You know, one of the questions I saw come up a few times, Sheila, if you don't mind my interrupting, was asking what age the UQ Feelings book is for.
Yes.
And, you know, I don't usually start doing a lot of YouTube work or animated video work with students until, you know, kindergarten, first grade. I'm not a big fan of preschoolers getting exposed to too much screen time, even if it's really good work. It's just my personal philosophy. So I think the UQ book is kind of kindergarten, second grade, and then into, depending on the level of the student, because I have some young adults who love some of these videos, you know, but generally I think through middle school. I think high school often requires a different set of YouTube videos.
Yeah. And then let's see, wait a second. I'm looking at, I don't know, I'm looking at let's see, some of them are questions about, I saw some questions pop up in the chat along the way. Let's see. This person said, let's see, I'm trying to figure out how to write meaningful, measurable IEP goals for storytelling, answering questions. How do you present this so it becomes clear to parents and teachers that they still need work in these important areas?
You know,
well, Maryellen had a fabulous webinar about.
It was great with Linda LaFontaine.
Yes.
And we're going to do a follow-up on the intervention for that student, but the little booklet that came out with that is how to document progress with story grammar marker. And in our manuals on the data collection, there is a section on IEP goals. I see Linda LaFontaine is on this one too.
Hi, Linda. Somebody else had, she said, I would love to incorporate this work to support my whole elementary building in our work surrounding diversity and culturally responsive teaching. Wondering if you have any recommended resources or favorite animations for this.
You know, I'm developing a list right now, and what I'm finding is that, you know, for some, and I get a lot of emails requesting, you know, do you have a video for this? Do you have a video for that? It's difficult to find a YouTube, an animated video that I feel can be shown to a wide range of students. Because especially around some of these issues, a lot of anxiety can enter into it, and I'm finding it very difficult to find videos for students about this. And so often I kind of backtrack, and you're kind of going in the back door when you're working on resilience, when you're working on how do you handle worried feelings, when you talk about, well, how do you include other people, how do you cooperate? So I think sometimes it's building that understanding of very sophisticated subject matter from kind of a cooperation, how do you handle your worries, we all have worries kind of direction.
Yes. We have lists of children's books. The first webinar I gave during this COVID time was about my favorite books to use with, I guess, because with uncertain times. And there were contributions by Woodson in there, and those are wonderful books. And also Those Shoes by Mary Beth Boltz. So there are lots of opportunities, but like Anna was saying about the anxiety and things like that, we've done a lot of work in Baltimore City schools with trauma, and you know, using this as a tool to help kids formulate a story. Not so much to conquer the trauma, but to talk about it, to be able to, instead of being asked the questions, to be able to communicate. So those are just some of the thoughts.
And there's a question there, Anna, would you recommend using real people videos for young adults with similar goals versus animations?
Funny, I just saw that one and was going to ask if I could answer that one. You know, and Sheila, I didn't have a chance to send you that video yet. The videos are very powerful tools with young adults because they are really media savvy, and they know all about, they're very adept. And I've had to kind of stretch myself to watch some of these, you know, anime. Some of them are pretty violent in theme. Some of them are despairing and dark. And my students are watching them, and so we're using them to do some work with. And I think it's just an interesting position I find myself in, of having to really be flexible and go with the material that the students want to go with. This is similar to when I work with students who are doing a lot of third-person shooter video games. And we talk about, well, how do you cooperate on Fortnite? How do you cooperate on this? Well, see, and I've had students say, everything that you're teaching me, I'm doing, you know, on Grand Theft Auto. And it's like, okay, tell me what you're doing. And they'll give me the list, and then making that bridge to, well, you're doing it so well on Grand Theft Auto. How could you try it at home? And those are always interesting conversations for me clinically, because I'm continuing to grow and learn and have to stretch, which is good, but sometimes painful. Mm-hmm. Can I also address this one question, Sheila, about students who say, I don't know?
Yes. Oh, I saw that one. Yes.
How do you encourage students who seem to respond with the default, I don't know? Are you offering forced choice or other type of scaffold? I think scaffolding is great, is a great tool. Giving a choice is something that is kind of on the last resort in my book. The best tool I have is, I often say, I'm not sure. I don't know. This is tricky. What do you think? Because often that I don't know is code for, I'm not willing to take the chance of telling you what my idea is. So I think the more that we can present ourselves as not knowing all the answers, the more our students will feel comfortable sharing what they think. And so I often say, I really don't know. What do you think? I think this is a hard moment to understand what's going on. And that really allows students to feel like I'm not here and they're here. Yes. But it's kind of a balanced field of, you know, I'm also often never sure. because there's often more than one answer.
It's true.
Yeah, no, and I will say too, wait a minute, there was some, let's see. Oh, okay. Can you share some wordless video suggestions? I think some of them you said were on your website.
On my website, under the Social Learning Labs free resources section, there's also YouTubes where I discuss and give examples of ways to use them. The following question about conversation paths with videos, I'm working right now on expanding the conversation in real time part of conversation paths to make it kind of a standalone manual, because it gets very complicated, because we're really talking about that inner voice, that inner narrative, that narrative thinking, because you can do voiceover if there's only one character. At that point, you're providing that train of thought. And that can be really difficult for many of our students. And they'll often start with what I call pop-ins, that are interjections, where they'll say, ooh, oh. And all of that actually is really important in conversation, because it's those pop-ins, those interjections, that give the other person in our conversation an understanding that we actually understand them. So the interjections are really super important.
But there are so many of our students who don't know where to use them or how to use them, or that they even exist, even if they do them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, and people just, you know, people absolutely loved, I think those were all, I think we hit all the, oh, somebody wrote, do you have it so students can see each other, or do they try to keep pace with the video?
Well, they can't look at two things at once, is kind of my belief. Just like Maryellen and I couldn't look at each other. So I think there is that challenge if you're watching the video. I have had students who then want to try to act it out. So, you know, it allows for all kinds of creativity and bringing in kind of drama therapy into our work, which is so important for intonation and nonverbal and movement and all of those other aspects.
And I think that that's vital. I always try to do that. My hallmark story is the paper bag princess. And at workshops, I bring props and try to entice people to come up and do the role play, because you can tell by the tone of voice, the body language, and all that stuff, how they're going to be at what they might say for dialogue. And I'm thinking of also the classroom teachers that we deal with. They'll always say we can tell what the character's going to do by what they say, what they do, how they feel, and what they're thinking about. And how they feel and what they're thinking about are nebulous to many, many students, and they don't have the vocabulary. So.
And somebody did write also, just another question that came in. I wonder how these ideas might be used with therapy being done with RPGs, role-playing.
Role-playing, yes. I'm actually, I'm really getting into using role-playing games. There's a group in Seattle, Game to Grow, that does therapeutic gaming. And I'm actually starting to do some of that in my practice. And this summer, Game to Grow has a new game coming out, I think in the next week or so, was the last I heard from Adam, that will work on 5 critical core concepts, such as flexibility and executive function and perspective taking. So there's a lot of really important and wonderful things happening, not just with RPGs, but also with any kind of tabletop gaming. I use it a lot to build resilience, and speak quite often on how can we use games to build resilience and self-regulation in our students, because it's not just about turn taking with Candyland anymore.
Right.
It's true.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, there's so much more.
Oh, my goodness.
Crazy. How do we, she said, Jennifer, who asked that, said, how do we access that game you're talking about?
if you go on gametogrow.org, they have information there on their Kickstarter of Critical Core. And because I get the updates, you can also email me and I can try and put you in touch with Adam. And there are actually some really interesting games that Game to Grow has put out. One game called Try Dice, TRYDICE, which Maryellen, you would love. It's kind of a storytelling and character with chance determining where the story goes.
Oh,
Because most RPGs are based on dots, DOTS, and the D stands for desire, the O stands for obstacle, the T is tactic, and the S is so then what happens.
Oh.
And it builds flexibility in students because they're like, no. I had a student yesterday protesting and I'm like, I'm the game master. I direct where the game goes. And having students sometimes be the game master. So there's just so much out there. That's
and
just,
I was going to say that those 4 words are a narrative episode.
the dots,
You can
yes.
fill in with that. You know, the desire, she desired to fly her plane that day. The obstacle, many obstacles, but her one, the tactic. And then, so then. So that's great.
I think it's funny, Anna, that you know about what a game master is, because when you were just saying that, I was thinking about how my 6-year-old will randomly tell me that she's the game master, and I'm always thinking, what is she talking about? So it must be a YouTube thing, or I don't know.
It's a D&D.
What?
It's an RPG. I don't know that it's necessarily YouTube. It's an RPG. It's a role-playing game.
I'm sure she learned about.
Dungeon master. I'm not a dungeon master yet. I don't think that's in my wheelhouse.
I think no, and I think she probably learned about it from one of her YouTubers. But
Yes.
wait, so we'll do one or so more questions. Do you have suggestions for older kids to be able to understand and participate in social media such as TikTok, so they can avoid posting inappropriate or tone-deaf posts? Social media is so important to Generation Z and their connections.
You know, I don't have videos about it. Somewhere I have a book, but my office is somewhat chaotic right now. If you're still on and you ask that question, you could email. Can I just make a run and get the book?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make the run.
Yep.
She'll get that book, and if anyone else has any questions, let me know right now, and then if not, we will move on to oh, there it is. Okay.
So this doesn't cover TikTok because at this point, this book has been out for a while, but it's called It's Complicated. Can you see the?
Yeah.
Oh, social lives and network teams.
That's cool.
And who is the author on that?
Dana Boyd. And he started, I forget what he started. He started the social media that was with colleges, maybe 10 years ago. He started the social media platform with colleges, and then it just went off the deep end. And that's why he wrote the book, because he was just shocked at what happened.
Wow. Well, this has been so awesome, Anna. We want to do another one. I think everybody wants us to do another one with you because this was so great. I saw so many people. I'm going to send you the chat because it was amazing to see, especially like I was very intrigued by the jump cut and using that in therapy, and everyone's writing that as well. So many people just said that this webinar, between the jump cut and some of the people who didn't know the connection with the narrative and the thought process, it was, I saw several people write that it was an aha moment, this webinar, and people that are seasoned in their field feeling like they learned a lot from this webinar. And I think that's huge. And a lot of people who, people are commenting. So I'll send you the chat, Anna, so you can kind of read it because it's hard to look at it while you're presenting. But I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
I wanted to just say, I'm so glad it finally happened. And
I am too.
And I want to thank Sheila for all her hard work and putting all this together. It's amazing to me what she can do.
She was burning the midnight oil, I think.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And Maryellen, you are the poster child for resilience.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel bolstered by this. Now I'll have to take a 3-hour nap.
I think you should do that.
Now you can continue your recovery from your
Right, right.
surgery. But anyway, so thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And I'm going to, let's see, I think, yeah, we've still got like 400 people on. So thank you all so much.
Wow.
If you want to contact Anna, her email and website are here, as well as her YouTube and her Twitter. And if you want to reach Maryellen,
And our lessons on the website.
yes, and I will send all the links you need in the follow-up email. And if you need anything else, just go to our website. People have been asking about where it's mindwingconcepts.com. I'll put it down here again because you'll see right away. Just go to new and you'll be able to see Anna's book. So and I know we've sold quite a few copies already, which is very exciting. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your week. I feel like it's Friday, but it's Wednesday. And we'll talk to you soon, Anna.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
That's great.
Hold on, I'm just gonna get,
Okay.
and let's see, where am I going here? Oh my gosh.
Here.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I know, we're still here. Wait a minute.
Anna, that was a great reenactment.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
Hold on, I have to save something. Hold on a second.
That was a kick.
It
Um,
was fun.
Wait 1 second, sorry, I'm like, hold on.
But you know, you're thinking of many things at once with that. You know, you're thinking of where you are in the story.
Mhm.
So
It's-
it's so complex for these kids.
There's a cognitive load there.
Oh, yes, yeah.
When I just want to see chat for, what's the date? June 3rd. I just don't want to lose that when I get out of the,
Mm-hmm.
okay. All right, I'm finally, okay. All right, so I'm gonna end it finally. Let's see.
And also, it made such a great connection. I was just thrilled with it.
All right, so now Maryellen will take it. Okay.
There was
See
so
you later, Anna. We'll talk soon.